Okay, welcome back. Hope you've enjoyed our sit-down chat in Fans Pulse Lap 1 with Leicester and Glasgow star Kyle Howarth, available to watch again on our YouTube channel. Do you have a discussion topic that you would love us to tackle on a future episode? If so, you know what to do. Email us, messages, WhatsApp us, comment below this very video or any of our social media output, and we will pick up your suggestion, give it due consideration, and you may very well see your suggestion come to life in a future 360 Speedway discussion. Okay, let's move on now with Fans Pulse Lap 2. As you can see from the graphic, we are catching back up. So, Phil and Stuart, 1 week on, we've reached the final few days of January already. Easter eggs are in the shops. What's that all about? What's wrong with people? And the Speedway news just keeps on coming. I thought we should take a look and try and keep up to pace with all of the breaking news over the past week or so, and we'll get Robbo and Lano's views on much of that too. So let's kick off with, actually, a look back to last week's episode. So we did our big interview, and it was a big interview because we don't often, as Speedway fans, get a chance to directly discuss Speedway with and ask difficult questions to anyone from the BSPL. So credit. Big credit to Rob Godfrey, chairman of the BSPL, for one, for agreeing, and two, for fielding all of the questions. Rob could very well have set some rules at the outset. He could have suggested there were different topics that we weren't allowed to ask him about. He didn't do any of that stuff. So kudos to Rob for that. I know there was some mixed views out there in 360 Speedway land. The vast majority of people I think enjoyed and accepted the interview for what it was. Some people were a bit critical perhaps that Rob didn't share some of the detail behind some of the things that he alluded to, and hopefully people do realise some of the reasons that until I's are dotted and T's are crossed and all that good stuff, it's not always possible to share some of that ahead of it being absolutely watertight and legally available. So, Robbo, you were on 360 last week and never present so far this season. What was your own sort of personal takeaway or view or opinion, Robbo, of our sit down with Rob last week?
I certainly came across quite well. I mean, I don't know, again, like Kyle I speak to, I don't know him away from the sport. I only know him from going to track, seeing him at tracks, and so seeing him, I was sort of, okay, it is a sort of involvement within the sport, but he wasn't at the track and he was sat down. He didn't have the pressure on him of the meeting and stuff like that. He was sat back, he was quite relaxed, and I thought he was relatively open. I mean, he said what he could say. There was a lot of things he can't say, like you just said, until things are finalised. You can't let the cat out of the bag, so to speak, in that term. You have to wait till everything is finalised, and then they can sort of push forward with the letting everyone know what's happening. So I thought he came across quite well, and I was quite interested in the Speedway's future things, because it's something, like I said last week, you kind of heard about it, but then we didn't hear anything about it. There was nothing. So like, what would I do, and what's Harry and Philip's involvement, that kind of thing. Because again, there was a big sort of promotion that we've got Harry Redknapp and former MP Philip, is it Davies?
Davies, yeah.
But then there wasn't something saying, Harry's going to do this for us and Philip's going to do that for us. There was just nothing. It was the announcement, and then I personally didn't hear any more about it. So he didn't. I know he kind of. I think from what I can gather, they were kind of brought in to help open doors, to help with introductions to new people, that kind of thing. And so it was, at least he gave us an answer, because there was nothing before that. And like I said, there'd been no news, as far as I'm aware, on future Speedway futures at all. There was just nothing more to do. We didn't know they were working away in the background the way they are, doing what they do, and setting the rules for the sport, that kind of thing. It was just, they're going to do this, that, and the other, but then there was nothing. So it was, I like the fact that he did give us a little bit of insight into that.
Phil, one thing that I particularly wanted to ask you, Phil, if you don't mind, is you're obviously, you're a journalist. I think if I'm not mistaken, you're involved in some of the sort of PR, the comms for British Speedway. And I said in that little scene setting there that just having the ability to sit and have a conversation with someone from the BSPL, never mind the chairman of it, what was actually I think it was quite powerful and quite refreshing. And a lot of supporters will critique the lack of information sometimes that come out from the governing body of our sport. So what was were you surprised, Phil, when you discovered, for example, that Rob was going to come on and talk to us on 360 Speedway?
I would say it was very brave, because it's been a winter of discontent, and probably the worst 4 or 5 months in the history of the sport. I think it's very brave for the chairman to come on. I think it's important that perhaps he did that to show some sort of due diligence to the fans. I think just sort of alluding to what Robbo was saying there, that there's been an awful lot of talk over the past few months. And like even what Kyle was saying in the earlier part, was saying that he's even pulled away from listening to it all because there's just so many rumours. We're talking about right the way midway through the last season, where losing TV deals, losing clubs, no real substance for Speedway fans to feel positive about. And that's the problem, is that there's been talk about Speedway Futures. We had the launch of Harry Redknapp being involved in the sport. There wasn't. That's terrific. Harry is a very good name for the sport, and but again, there was sort of the fans haven't had any substance of any sort of solidity with where the sport's going. We haven't had that. We've never had a 5-year plan. We've always jumped from winter to winter with an AGM with everything up in the air. It's like every year is a sliding doors moment for the sport, and I think it's really unfair on the fans that they are our greatest investors in the sport. They're the people who come week in, week out. Their money's disposable cash is at an all-time low for every single person in this country now, and they come in week in, week out, and people love the sport. Everyone's invested in the sport. I love the sport. I've been involved all my life. So both of you, and the fans are the same, and so we owe the fans that transparency. And I think it was good that Rob came on. It's a shame that he can't divulge more. And I think we're now at the end of January, and we still don't know what's going on. There's the Ben Fund, Peter Craven Memorial at Bellevue's is literally 6 weeks away, or just over 6 weeks away, and then the Ben Fund at Glasgow is 2 months away from when we're talking. And we look at the Ipswich side, and there's one name on the team sheet, and we're still waiting to know if there's going to be a 6th team, and we don't have a TV deal. We don't have any idea what's happening with the British Speedway network, which has been the greatest success story in 30 years, since that's been the best innovation in British Speedway since Sky ran the leagues ran British Speedway on Elite League on a Monday night or whatever it was, and in 1999 when it came on regularly. That's British Speedway has been the best. We don't know what's going on. We don't know where we're going to watch Speedway. We don't know we know very little at all, and it's I think so. Just going back, Rob's great coming on this. It's great, but we now need some substance. We seriously need some substance now.
Yes.
It's we can't have people stroking their chins anymore, because we are going to lose. The fans are going to get disinterested. People want to plan things. People want to go on holiday in the middle of the summer. People want to go to. The people have got lives. They've got days off to book from work, and I just think it's gone on too long now, and I think that this has been such a torrid few months. And again, I'm not shying away from the fact that the problems are not everyone's fault, and some things are consequences of other things, and I just feel this has been coming for a long while. I think we've just sort of gradually dragged our heels for a while, and I think Rob's an erstwhile and an honest guy, and I know that his heart's in the sport. I know that he wants the best for the sport, but we can't get away from what's actually staring us straight in the face, is that we're at the end of January, and we're no better knowing what we were than we were 2 months ago, really, and or even further than that. So it is very frustrating, and the trouble is, from my point of view, and this is what's happened in the last week, anything that happens in Speedway now, if anything that is put on the British Speedway social media or anyone, it's just a wave of negativity. because people are frustrated and disappointed. They want to know more, and so the whole sport is sort of completely shrouded in negativity, and the fans have a right to be disappointed and frustrated, and it's just so great for Rob to come on. But we probably got to the stage now where everyone needs some answers and some sort of idea of what this is going to look like in a couple of months, and this sort of would just get it on and hope for the best is a little bit of a worry that that's going to happen.
Listen, Phil, I appreciate it, and I love the obvious passion that you're speaking with. You know, you have some vested interest in the success of the sport. We all want the sport to be successful. Your credit to Rob for doing what he did last week, but to your point, we need some final answers on the whole range of things for the reasons that you've outlined, Phil.
Yeah,
we believe Simon Lambert did get Rob Godfrey to commit to coming back onto 360 Speedway at a future point, perhaps even as a live stream discussion to allow the 360 Speedway viewers and listeners to put some questions to Rob directly. So we'll absolutely try to make that happen at some future stage in the not too distant future. Talking of live streams, we have something to tell you later on at the end of this segment, so stay tuned, watch till the end, as if you wouldn't anyway, and we'll get a little bit of news for you on live streams. Okay, let's press on. Next subject. Before we go any further, probably remiss of me, I possibly should have started with this. I'm sure that everyone watching will join me in expressing sympathy and condolences to the friends and family of former British Speedway chairman and president Terry Russell, who sadly passed away earlier this week, aged 75. Terry was a prominent figure in the sport, beginning as owner-promoter of Crayford way back in the early 80s, and went on to promote at Hackney with the London Lions, Exeter, Arena Essex, Eastbourne and Swindon, amongst his more notable appointments in his Speedway career. He was also accredited, controversially so, with securing and holding the worldwide commercial and television rights for British Speedway via his Go Speed International company. Phil, to bring you back in again, if you don't mind, and Rob, I'll come to you as well. You will have personally encountered Terry over the years. I never did, but any particular recollections or memories of Terry Russell, Phil?
I've known Terry since I was about 10, 11, 12, 13. I probably first saw him at Hackney when I was a little kid, and he's always been, he was always a great innovator. I always liked his style. He knew what he wanted to do. He knew how to put a speedway on, and just what it's a strange irony about this week, because just what I've been talking about where we're at the state of the sport. But Terry was the great innovator, and he saw the value of where we had to go with Sky. He orchestrated that. That was a groundbreaking moment in 1999 when we had Elite League live on Sky, and at the time it was like 3 hours a night, and every week, and it was and he was very much part of the voices and the people at that time who were around when we went to the Millennium Stadium, which is what it was then, before the Principality in 2000. We had powerful people in the sport who knew how to, proper power brokers who really knew how to put a stage on, and how to where the visionaries of where Speedway needed to be and how it needed to look to the outside world. And if we would have any chance of sponsorship and marketing, we had to be at the right stadium, we had to be on the right TV channels, we had to present it right, had to look right. And at that time, Speedway really, really upped its game in 99 and 2000 on the Grand Prix and in the Elite League. And the sport was going in a really good direction at that point. And there was John Postlewaite, Paul Bellamy, these guys at the Grand Prix, BSI, and obviously Terry was a British Speedway. And you know, to lose Terry this week, obviously, you know, a massive stalwart of the sport for half a century maybe, and but the irony wasn't lost on me, and he's a great loss, a massive loss.
Robbo, any recollections of? Did you work with or for Terry at any point in your career?
No, I never had any dealings with Terry. I obviously see him around that track, so I did speak to him now and again. But I never had any kind of dealings with him, riding for clubs for him or anything like that. But so like the biggest memory I have of him really is what Phil's just been saying there about him getting the sport of Speedway onto Sky Sports. You know, that was a groundbreaking moment for the sport. It was great, and I used to love that. I loved going to either a pub to watch it, or being a part of it, or just watching it at home. Any of them, I really did enjoy watching it on Speedway, because on the Sky Sports, sorry, because it did put a good show and it came across very well. And yeah, he will be a big miss. I mean, I don't know how much involvement he's had over the last sort of 10 years or so within the sport, but because but before that he was a huge part of it for a long time, wasn't he? So yeah, big miss.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Phil, I'm interested if you've got your ear to the ground, Phil, so you'll know about this. But a news line that I picked up on that doesn't appear to have caught much attention in British media or Speedway reporting is, and this is courtesy of Speedway News Poland, who claim that Team GB have withdrawn from the Euro Team Championship. And the headline that they used was, "The British did it again. The Federation has made a shocking decision." And the claims are that Team GB have withdrawn from the 2026 European Team Championship, the semi-finals of which are due to take place at Pardubice in the Czech Republic in mid-April. Phil, I mean, is that something you're aware of, Phil? Are you able to validate it?
I'm vaguely aware of it. I mean, the Great Britain Speedway team have, again, since they've come into operation since 2018, have been, again, like I just mentioned, BSN, have been one of the great innovations of this recent era. I mean, Rob Painter and Vicky Blackwell, the job they've done is quite remarkable. They have very, very little. They do an extremely erstwhile job with marketing, with very little amount of events to use their to get the company's exposure, because they only have a handful every year. Like, they've only got this year, for instance, as we sit here now for the senior team, they've only got 2 meetings. So to sell, they've got all their sponsors and whatever, and they work within their means very, very diligently. But you've only got a World Cup semi-final and a World Cup final, which you hopefully will qualify for. I'd like to think we would. But so they make every decision with great care. They have spent an awful lot of time building the foundations for a lot of young riders and getting them experience abroad in these. I think that there's a massive gripe with a lot of British promoters, perhaps more in the Championship, that they miss a lot of weekends, like last year, like Dan Thompson missed and Leon Flint. These guys missed a lot of meetings because they were doing these European rounds in the European pairs or whatever, or the team, FIM events in faraway places. But the experience that is gained by those riders doing those rounds is irreplaceable. For instance, Tom Brennan, when he scored 20 points, I think at Bydgoszcz in 2021 in a European semi-final, and that gave him his place in the Speedway Nations final. He got a gold medal we won it that year, and Tom's gone from strength to strength. And that was it took him a while to get, but eventually that experience on those tracks. So they do have their massive worth doing those meetings. I don't think they're particularly popular with British promoters. I think, but if we want British riders to succeed, they need to do them. If they have ducked out of that, which again I've not seen a confirmation of it, but it would have been. It's not something that would have been done on a whim. There would have been either a clash of dates or a lack of riders, and we just slightly at the moment, if it's the under 21s or under 23s, we're going through a little bit of a transitional period, because we've lost a lot of riders. That period of Leon and Tom have gone now. They've left that sort of the under 21 level. So unless they've got a shortage of riders, there's a bona fide reason. That's a bit of a shock, because they need to do those meetings, and Ollie and Simon want them to do them as well.
Well, it's against that professionalised background that you've just articulated very well, Phil. It's against that background that it appears more surprising than not that GB might have withdrawn for it. So the format, just as a reminder, the format of this particular tournament allows one SGP rider to be nominated from each nation. One SGP rider only, and then the remaining, I think it's a 4-rider team, are obviously nominated from non-SGP riders. But Poland won it last year. The nations who apparently are going to line up in the semi-finals there's 8 of them: Slovenia, Denmark, Ukraine, Norway, Czech Republic, France, Latvia and Sweden. And again, Phil, there might be, I'm sure there will be some very valid reasons for pulling out if that's the case. But some of those nations, even if Team GB were to dig a little bit lower in their ranks, I'm sure we could perform just as well as some of those other nations. There's
always complex situations underneath, because with the greatest respect, our pool of riders is still not as great as Poland. I think you'll find that Poland, they may be allowed to use a Grand Prix rider, but they'll probably use Muselak and these guys to do it, and then a couple of young guys, whereas our pool of riders isn't as great. And again, it depends whether the likes of, I know Chris Harris doesn't, for instance, ride for Great Britain anymore, whether Charles Wright or Richard Lawson or these guys want to do it, and whether they want. And again, it depends what the money's like as well, because it's a fairly big outlay for a rider to sort of jump in a van and spend a weekend away somewhere, and that's difficult as well. If you're not already abroad, if you're not already got bikes in Poland or wherever it's going to be, or and you've not got mechanics who can drive, it becomes difficult, especially if you're, all these guys. For the reason I've just said, like Charles, Richard, or Chris Harris, or whatever, Glasgow, Redcar, Paul will all be riding that weekend. It causes complications with the clubs. Yeah. I think that gets to a certain point, like even maybe Carl Howth, for instance, is that you go past a certain age and you go, you know what, I'm not going to be world champion. I don't need to get experience anywhere. My loyalty lies with my championship club. They're paying my wages week in, week out. So I think it's probably a combination of all these things in the background somewhere, but I do know for certain if they pulled out something, there'll be a damn good reason for it, because they believe in this very strongly. Yeah, that's fine.
Listen, hopefully some justification will be published at some point. Let's have a dive into the Premiership news over the past week or so, and the BSPL post-EGM press release referenced that there remained the prospect of a sixth Premiership club. Rob Godfrey mentioned it last week, without identifying who that might be, of course. I'm amplifying your point from 5 minutes ago, Phil. We need to be cracking on and making announcements. Are you, without giving anything away, Phil, are you aware of a sort of confidence level of that happening, and the time frame potentially for making that newsworthy?
I don't know time frames. I think anyone would be a fool to try to be a prophet in time frames in British Speedway right now. But I think everyone's aware of what the script is at the moment. I guess my only fear of that is that the longer it goes on, the more chance that, for instance, if we use for hypothetical sake that it is Northampton, that they get thrown together at the last minute. And we don't want a situation where, look at Birmingham, and bless their hearts, Nigel and Lawrence work their socks off to try and get Birmingham into ship shape and make them a strong side. What we don't want is, start of this patchwork quilt of riders being thrown together on the 1st of March when we're opening a new track. When if you're opening a new track, you want to come in with a fanfare and razzmatazz. You want them, yes. And again, there's a team there. Listen, there's Charles Wright, Richard Lawson, Louis Kerr, Eric Riss. There's 4 riders now, Dom, in that team. Very, very good basis of a very good team, straight away.
Yes.
And but you kind of, and I'm not being disrespectful to those riders because they've been absolutely sensational for the sport. But if you're opening Northampton, you really want a big star there. If you're going to have to really get the local media and the local TV stations and the local papers, you want to present a world-class star as your number one. You want to hang your hat on somebody. And I don't want a situation where they do it like a Birmingham and they sort of just have to find somebody to fill the number one. But I mean, listen, Charles, Richard can be a number one, but it's whether they build a team like Leicester or whatever, which is more likely they'd have to do. It'll be like a sort of solid side rather than a. But I just get this feeling, this awful gut-wrenching feeling that it's going to be thrown together at the last minute, and that'll do. We've got a 16, and we're opening a new track, we want it with a bit of a fanfare, and a bit of razzle-dazzle, and a bit of, wow, this is great to have a new track, And I think we're heading that way. I don't think there's, you don't need to be Einstein to work out where we're heading with this. But if it is that, I just hope it's done in the right way, put it that way.
No, you make a good point, Phil. And Robbo, the other elephant in the room, and there'll be lots of Ipswich fans watching this right now. I firmly detect from looking at some of the comments on 360 Speedway social media that there's a heck of a lot of Witches fans out there, Robbo, who are highly anxious at the moment. They don't quite know whether to be jubilant or not. The club has committed to come into the tapes again. They don't know who the new club owners are. They don't know what those new club owners bring to the club, to the sport, and they don't know, apart from Jason Edwards, who's going to line up in a Witches race jacket this season.
That's right. It's I don't know if I've said this before or not, but the not knowing is the worst part about it. Why should feed a little bit of something, give them something, even if it's we're going to make a really big announcement next week. We'll announce the new owners of the stadium or whatever it might be. But give them something. You can't just leave people in the dark. That's not good, and people will start to lose interest if they're not careful. They've got to give them something to look forward to. They need. Ipswich have been renowned for good teams in the past, and like last year especially, they went out and they won the league. They showed how good they are, and then all of a sudden they've been sold. The club's been sold, and there's only one rider announced, and we're like less than or about 2 months or so away from the start of the next season. They need something. It's not good for them, is it?
No, the calendar flips over to February come Sunday. So listen,
exactly.
if it's the next couple of weeks, I'm hopefully Witches fans, you've learned to be super patient thus far. So another week or two, and hopefully no more than that. Hopefully you'll be able to withstand. Robbo, I wanted to stick with you actually. So Bellevue have announced another couple of riders. So I think Bellevue are just one rider short of their full 1 to 7. So the aces are going to line up Dan Bewley, Norik Bladorn, Peter Kildum, Zach Cook, Tate Ziske, and William Cairns, plus Ian Other. Now, I don't know who the Ian Other is. I haven't worked out what points limit that they've got left. But my observation, Robbo, and Aces fans, you'll probably hate me for this. I can't help but feel that Aces side feels a little bit suspect at the moment. I don't know who the seventh rider is, and maybe that will transform everything for me. But there's a lot of riders in that side who, in my opinion, have got some question marks over them over the course of a full Premiership season. Rob, I don't know if you have any immediate thoughts on that.
Be a big season for young Will. It's he's coming into his first full season. Did he do a full season last year? So he's coming into a start of the season with Bellevue, and I think there'll be a lot expected of him. Knowing Will like I do, I don't know him that well. I've met him a few times. I've did a little bit of work with him in the past when he was a bit younger, just the odd day here and there. And he doesn't. I don't think the pressure, from what I know of him, will get to him. He doesn't seem that type of rider. He was, from what I saw, he was just get on with it. Let's kind of do it, and let's get on the bike rider kind of rider. The other guys, obviously Dan, a very well established rider now, out at number one. Norik, I've seen Norik a little bit over the past couple of years, and he blows hot and cold from what I can gather. I mean, it's a difficult league to get into. And be consistent. So if he can be consistent, then that will be a big thing. I mean, he is a good rider. There's no doubt about that. So we wouldn't have brought him back if he wasn't. So yeah, he's. I think there's a bit on him as well. I don't really know the other guys so well. So, but there's good. I think maybe they're hoping for big things from all the riders. But you always do. I guess you do. You don't build a team expecting riders not to do well. You build a team wanting, there's good potential in the team here. So Lemore's got his head screwed on. He'll know the riders well enough. He'll know a bit of background on them and whatever. I think the seventh rider, whoever it might be. I don't know how much average have they got left. Have they got?
I haven't done my homework, Rob. I don't know. I can't even tell you. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't. Depending, obviously, what the average is they've got left.
I think they can fit in one very, 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 very big gun.
Can they indeed?
There you go.
Okay,
there you go.
okay.
That could be. I mean, all of a sudden, if they bring, I don't know, like for example, one of the top Aussie lads in, then you've got a good team then, haven't you?
So listen, the Aces will probably romp it. I put a question mark on them and they'll probably romp it. Aces fans watching this, are you concerned? Are you confident? Has Phil Lanning just made you even more confident? So look, write in and comment below this post and let us know.
I think they should be confident. I think that Zach was one of the big revelations of last season. I think he was sensational at Bellevue. He's got to improve away from home, but he was much better than probably most people thought he would be at Bellevue. Norwich has got another year at number 2. He's just won the SON. He's full of confidence. He's at Torren now. He's still very young.
Nice.
But like Robbo said, he has blown hot and cold, but he's getting old. People forget how young he is still. He's still a young lad, and we know that the league is going to be slightly weaker.
Yeah.
So I think Zach Cook and Norwich will go up a level. They might put a point on each, and then Peter Kilderman. I spoke to him this week. He's absolutely dying to get to the National Speedway Stadium. That place is absolutely cut out for him. And I think he could put a couple of points on, and then suddenly the whole, because if they do have the 2 big guns at 1 and 5, there's only Max Frick's going to have to live with them in the big races and from other teams, and then they look pretty solid. And I agree with Rob. The most outstanding thing about Will Cairns is that he was dumped in the pool team last year, and the expectation was on his shoulders that Will's going to come in and we're going to win the league, and he didn't have it all his own way, but he's mentally strong, and I think he'll have to ride the wave a little bit. He'll have to put up with a couple of duff nights here and there, but he's shown the resilience that he can just plough on, and he's got a good self-belief there, and I think he's got it, that boy, and I think that he could be a real. If he weighs up the NSS like he can, he knows the place. If he can get out the start there, they could be a real handful. Bellevue. It's going to be an interesting side.
There you are, Races fans. Listen to those two and not for me. Let's just pick up another couple of signings. So Leicester completed their team this week with the signing of Drew Kemp. Perhaps no surprise, Drew has spent the winter racing in Argentina, so he will be race sharp when he returns to the UK to start the season with the Lions. And as Rob Godfrey predicted last week, Sheffield have indeed signed their aspirational popular skipper Josh Pickering is back for I think his 4th successive season with the Sheffield side. So just a quick overview of all things Premiership. Bellevue have 1 rider to add. Kings Lynn, Leicester, Sheffield are complete. Ipswich currently have only announced Jason Edwards. Hopefully that will be resolved. The remaining 6 riders will be announced imminently. And club number 6, will it be Northampton? As we talked about a few moments ago, we will watch with interest to see what side that they put together to launch that new club to the sport. What's your thoughts, Premiership fans? How do you feel the overall standard matches up this season compared to last? Are you enthusiastic or less so for the prospects of your own team, based on those clubs who know who's going to race for them? Ipswich fans, be a little bit more patient. That breaking news will happen, I'm quite sure, very imminently indeed, in terms of your new owners and the makeup of the Witches side. And do get in touch, Premiership fans, and share your thoughts, whether good or less so. A brief pause to bring you some 360 Speedway news. We are excited to be able to announce the first ever sponsorship for the channel, certainly for the month of February. So starting from episode 5 next week, 360 Speedway will be powered by an established, well-known Speedway business who wish to contribute and support to what we do. Our sincere thanks to them. We'll make an announcement at the early part of next week in terms of who our new sponsors are, initially for the month of February and hopefully beyond.